Hi, I'm Rich Goold. I'm a partner here at Wilson Sonsini in London, and I've got my colleague Raj, who's just launching a podcast, Breakthrough Minds. And we thought for this very first intro episode, we'd get Raj to talk a little bit about both himself and what inspired him to start this series. So Raj, please, could you tell the audience just what's your background, what's your context, what do you do, and what are you hoping to achieve with this podcast series, Breakthrough Minds?
A little bit about me. People who have heard me talk about tech will know this, but I was using Janet in the 1980s, and for the eagle-eyed amongst them, they'll notice that Janet wasn't the internet. Janet merged with ARPANET in 1991 and created the internet. So I was using the internet 5 years before it was the internet. And 5 years later, I did my first startup. So in 95, 96, I was doing my first startup. And then I got into law. So I've always been a bit of a geek. I've always been the person who's been balancing networks and getting into the code. And what's been great is I've been involved in lots of startups along the way, and the last startup I did was an AI startup. We formed in 2015 and was a client of Wilson Sonsini. And when I joined you guys 2 years ago, everything changed for me. Suddenly I was in the room and I was having these amazing conversations with clients where we were discussing how they were building technologies, and these technologies that could genuinely reshape our world. We get to see things, not just days before they're released, but months, if not years before they come into the market. And it's that I really got blown away by. It's the insights, the dilemmas, the kind of the creativity, how that's come together. And I thought all those moments just felt too valuable to keep behind closed doors. And this podcast is really my way of trying to open the door so people can come in and see what this is all about.
Amazing. So perhaps you can give the audience a flavour of the kind of conversations and perspectives that you're hoping to bring to people through the series.
Well, a little bit like this. They're completely unscripted, and I have no idea the interviewee has no idea what the questions are going to be. So it's completely, other than one question, there's one question I always go back to, and you'll see that's a theme. But I try to keep it just an authentic exchange about what it's really like to build, to be involved in regulating internally how technology is built, but sometimes even how people are investing their money into this cutting edge technology. It's about trying to bring out both the opportunities and the challenges, and that's kind of where that tension sits, where often the most interesting things happen. So it's trying to get all of that into a forum where people get to see, get a kind of a view into the room.
Yeah, so you're getting people into the room where this cutting edge tech's being built. Well, why? Why does that matter? What vantage point is that going to give to people, and why should they care?
Well, I think that for me, it's because I sit in kind of different rooms. I'm an exec advisor here. I'm also a senior counsel. So I do some law. I also do the exec advisory stuff, which is actually, it crosses over into the operations side of the business, the regulation, the risk management, much more hands-on kind of operationally. And that's a really interesting space. So I can be in one conversation advising a startup founder on a legal thing they're facing, and then next I can be sitting in a boardroom advising a board, and then sometimes discussing policy, and it gives me a panoramic view. And because I have that panoramic view, what I hope is by doing this podcast, we can get listeners to see some of that come out in the conversation as well.
Yeah, and I guess you've already described you wear a series of hats, and maybe the listeners will as well. How do you hope the podcast is going to resonate with people, whether they're working in tech, law, or simply just curious about the direction of travel?
I'm really hoping that the podcast will resonate because it's going to be very human. The conversations are between two people. They are not monologues. Whether you're a technologist or a lawyer or someone who's simply curious about how the world is changing, I'm really hoping there'll be something relatable here. I mean, everyone has a stake in the future of technology. And I'm really hoping that listeners walk away with ideas that they can really reflect on and even maybe challenge how they work and how they think about things.
Yeah, well, it certainly feels a bit more personal than your typical corporate briefing. So what sort of voice energy are you going to aim to bring to these episodes?
No script, no corporate filler, as you said, super conversational. There's going to be some laughter. I'm hoping not many tears, but definitely some laughter along the way. I'm sitting down with people I respect and admire, asking the questions that if I were listening, I would want answered. So the energy is going to be informal, but informed, hopefully never dry. It's all about curiosity and honesty, really, and that's what I'm targeting.
Sounds amazing. You're inviting somebody to just pull up a chair to your conversation.
That's it, exactly. And, you know, I want you to not feel like you're a listener ever. I want people to feel like they're part of the room. And if podcast works, I think they'll feel like they're part of the conversation, not just overhearing it. And that's kind of the whole point of it.
Sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to the series, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.